Hi guys, it's Miss Ford again. Here to open the next two resurrection eggs in our journey to the cross. To review, we've had a lot of them now, don't we? We have the donkey, which represent Palm Sunday. We had the three coins that represented Judas's payment for his betrayal of Jesus. We had the goblet that Jesus used at the Last Supper or the Passover meal to try to explain to them what was going to happen, that his blood was going to have to be shed for them to be saved. And then we have the praying hands that represent the Garden of Gethsemane and how Jesus went to spend his last hours before he was arrested praying with his disciples. And then we go ahead to the after the arrest of Jesus, when they use the leather whip to scourge his back and to beat him with this so that he was tortured before he was actually put to death. And then we have the crown of thorns that represented that the government was scared that Jesus was going to try to take over the government and be a king like we think of kings in our world. But he knew that that's not what his job was. Then we have the three nails that have been fashioned into this cross, and we said that each of the nails represents the nails that went into Jesus's hands and into his feet to hold him to the cross. And then we have the die. This die was thrown and was used to bet or to gamble on who was going to get Jesus' robe. They just robed him and took everything he had. He had nothing left. He was just there on the cross with nothing, and he didn't have much to begin with, but they took the only thing that he had, which were the clothes on his back. And while they were doing this, I didn't mention this yesterday, but while they were doing this, this is when Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And even in his most painful moments here on earth, and even though he knew what was coming, he was forgiving people. Something that, it's hard for us to sometimes forgive people that, just do little things to us. But then here Jesus was forgiving these men that were putting him to death because they didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening and what they were doing. The next resurrection egg is this spear. And this is kind of a little historical lesson too, because people were really crucified. Back in Jesus' time, if you were arrested for, sometimes just theft or robbery, you were put to death, and you were put to death on the cross. And what they would do is while you were hanging there, if you would try to hold yourself up so that you could breathe. Well, if they came and broke your legs, then your body sunk and you couldn't hold yourself up and you would die quicker, because that's kind of what they wanted to do. They wanted to get it over with. Well, in the Old Testament, they had said that the Savior would die, but that none of his bones would be broken. And so when the soldiers came to Jesus, they broke the two thieves on either side. They broke their legs. They were dead. When they came to Jesus, they noticed that he'd already passed away. And so they thought, well, he's already dead. We don't have to worry about breaking his legs. But they wanted to be extra sure. And so they took a spear and they pierced his side. And when blood came out, they knew that, okay, he's gone and he's dead. And so even in those last moments, Jesus was fulfilling the prophecy of how his death was going to happen. And so the spear represents piercing Jesus' side. And then the next egg is this color. It's kind of cream colored. And in it is a piece of cloth, a piece of linen. And back in Jesus' time, when you died, you weren't buried in the ground like you are here where we live. The ground is much too hard, and they couldn't dig deep enough to put a body. And if they did try to put him in the ground and it wasn't deep enough, then animals would come and, it would be a mess. And so they dug out in the side of rocks and inside of the mountain, and they put people in these tombs. It was like a little room. And they would anoint your body with oils, and they would wrap you in linen, and then they would lay you in this tomb and then roll the stone back across the entrance so that nothing could get to your body. And after Jesus was dead, there weren't that many people left. People were scared. There were a lot of people that believed Jesus was who he said he was, but they were scared. They had just seen him crucified. No one wanted to go up and say, can I have the body? But there was a rich man, and his name was Joseph, and he was from the town of Arimathea, and he came to the people at the cross, Mary and his disciples, and said, hey, I'll take the body. I have a tomb that I've just bought for myself, but I want to give it to y'all so that you can bury Jesus in the way that he needs to be buried. And so they took him down, and they did the funeral rites where they wrapped him in cloth. They put essential oils on him, and then they laid him in the tomb and rolled the stone across. And so here we have the linen that represents the white pureness that they wrapped Jesus in before they put him in the tomb. Now we know what's going to happen. We know that Sunday's coming. But the others didn't. They weren't real sure what was happening. And they knew that Jesus had predicted things, but they didn't seem to make any sense to them. And so they really thought they were burying Jesus, and this was the last that they were going to see of him. And so today is Holy Thursday. It starts the holy days, of Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. So I hope that you spend some time thinking, maybe reading the Last Supper and the washing of the feet that took place tonight. And then as you go into Good Friday, we like to spend the hours of maybe between 12 and 3 kind of in prayer and contemplation about what has happened. So I ask you to spend some time tonight and tomorrow thinking about the actual crucifixion of Christ, because we know that Sunday is coming, and it's going to be splendid, even if we can't be with our church families. Thank you, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.